Hey, welcome to another lesson. Now let's create our third animation. I'm going to select the character animation, which is the original comp. I'm going to Ctrl C and Ctrl B, and let's call this third animation. Now let's bring this to our timeline. Now let's zoom in here and make sure that we are on the end of the second animation and press the opening bracket. Okay, perfect. Now let's open this third animation. And what I want in this animation is that he will bend over like this. He will stretch his arms. This right arm, he will stretch it to this part, and the left arm to this point. So this will be simple. We just need to follow the same steps as we have done so far. So the first thing that we need to change is the body rotation. So let's change the color here to brown maybe. And the first thing that we're going to do is to change the anchor point of the body to this point right on the wrist. So click here with the pan behind tool and change the anchor point right here. Now when we move the rotation here, he will rotate like this. So that's exactly what we want. So I'm going to the first second, and I'm going to create a keyframe for the rotation. Now 10 frames later, I'm going to change the rotation. Let me see how much I want it to change, not too much. Maybe 25 minus 25 degrees, like this. Let's see how it looks. Okay, perfect. So 10 frames later, he will go back to the original position like this. Then he will stay like that for 20 frames. So we will create a keyframe here. And now 10 frames later, he will go back to the original position, to the standing position. So he will go like that. Okay. Now let's make all these layers easy keyframes, all these keyframes, sorry. And the movement now should be smoother. Okay. Now I want this to be repeated, of course. So I'm going to take all these 4 keyframes, and I'm going to go to the third second and repeat this. But this time, instead of moving to the left, I'm going to move to the right. So I have to change the rotation to, instead of minus 25, just 25. And repeat this keyframe here. So we have first the movement to the left and then to the right. Okay. Now I want to repeat all of this. I'm going to grab my 8 keyframes, and I'm going to paste them here on second 5. So I'm going to have 2 repetitions of each one. To the left, to the right, and then to the left and to the right again. So again, I'm going to create some markers here. Remember to unselect everything and create some markers with the asterisk on your keyboard. Let me create all of this. Alright, so this way I won't have to be going down to see where the keyframes are. Okay, now we can close the body settings, and now we're going to move. First, when he moves like this, we should move the right arm to this point. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to grab the right hand position. I'm going to create a keyframe here, move over, and I'm going to change the position to around this point. Maybe move it a little more like that. And then you see that this is happening, which is not cool. So I'm going to animate also the right shoulder. So I'm going to our right shoulder and open the position also, and I'm going to create a keyframe here on the first marker, and on this marker I'm going to take this shoulder and place it here, so that when we move it doesn't look weird, like this. Alright, now on the third marker create a keyframe here and a keyframe for the position of the shoulder too. And on the fourth marker we're going to copy the original position for both objects. So we will end up having something like this. He will stretch and he will go back again. Now let's do the same for the left hand. But first let's turn this into easy ease keyframes. Alright, now for the left hand, let's open the position here, create a keyframe here, and here the position of the arm should be somewhere around this point. So you can see that in this case the shoulder doesn't look wrong, so we don't have to animate it. Just go to the third marker here, create a keyframe, and then paste the first keyframe so that we have something like this. He goes to the left and then to the right. Change this to easy ease, and now it's time to repeat this same process a couple times. For the right arm we're going to copy the 4 keyframes and paste them here on these markers, and the same goes for the keyframes of the shoulder. So we will have another repeat of this. And finally, just grab the 4 keyframes of the left hand and paste them here. So we have all the movement that we wanted. Perfect. Now we have to animate the hair here also. So let's close this. Let's go to our hair, and again let's create the puppet pins tool, because remember that we are using the original composition, so we need to add the puppet pins again. But don't worry, this is really quick. Let's just rename the puppet pins hair 1 and hair 2, and let's open the keyframes. Make sure that the keyframes are right when the marker begins. Let's turn off the solo. So when he gets here, we should have the hair in the same position. So let's create a keyframe here but somewhere on this point we should move the hair to the right. So here in the middle, on the fifth frame, we can move these hairs a little to the right, like this. So he will go like this, just a little movement as before. We can exaggerate this a little and make the movement larger, like that. Okay. Now easy ease all these keyframes and we will have a smooth movement of the hair. Now when he goes on the other direction, well, first of course we have to animate back this one. When he goes like this on the other direction, we will paste this here, but instead of moving to the right, we're going to move to the left, like that. So the hair will bounce a little. Perfect. Now when he goes to the other direction, we need to change the direction of the hair too. So in this case, I think we can copy this, the second stance here, so he will go like this. You can see that the hair is going to the right, to the left. So this looks good. And on this part, we can take the first keyframes, paste them here, so the hair will go to the right. So the idea is that when the head is moving to the left, the hair will move to the right and then go back to the original position. So all we have to do is to copy all of these one more time here on these markers. So in the end we will have something like this. Let's see how all of this looks. We have some nice movement on the hair and on the arms and the legs. You can see that the legs, we didn't even need to move the legs because the body movement makes the legs bend a little on the knee. And that's because of the rigging, of course. So that's it for this third animation. Now we can cut this. Let's leave like 4 seconds this time, because this will be the last animation. Go back to our main comp, and you can see that we now have the 3 animations. So now it's time to add some background to this character and maybe change the composition a little bit so that it looks integrated into the background. So let's go to the next lesson.